Kethera's 4 hands shook as she stood in the center of the great crystal chamber. The walls around her glowed with a cold blue light that hurt her eyes. She had been in this room many times before, but never as the one being judged. Always before, she had been the respected scientist, the one who discovered new things about the galaxy. Now everything was different. The 3 high arbiters floated above her on their judgment platform. Their bodies kept changing shape, shifting between different forms like smoke in the wind. It was meant to show their power, their connection to higher dimensions that ordinary beings could not understand. Kethera had once admired them. Today she felt only fear. Kethera of the 3rd caste, the center arbiter spoke. Its voice came from everywhere at once, filling the chamber like thunder. You have been found guilty of the crime of dangerous thinking. Around her, holographic images appeared in the air. They showed her life's work floating like ghosts. 20 years of research, 20 years of careful study and discovery. She saw her notes about the humans of Sol 3, the species that had fascinated her for so long. She saw her reports about their art, their music, their strange habit of helping strangers. She saw her recommendations that they be moved from Category 7 to Category 4, that they be given a chance to grow instead of being watched from far away. All of it was being taken from her. The species you study, the left arbiter continued, are barely out of their caves. They fight wars over pieces of dirt. They poison their own world. They cannot even agree on simple things like how to treat each other. Yet you claim they have value. Kethera tried to speak, but her voice came out as a whisper. They do have value. I have watched them for years. Yes, they fight, but they also help. They create beautiful things for no reason except joy. They risk their lives to save people they do not even know. Silence. The right arbiter's word hit her like a physical blow. You have been infected by their primitive emotions. This is why we do not allow close contact with lower species. They spread their chaos like a disease. The chamber filled with more images now. Kethera saw scenes from her secret visits to human space. She had been careful, or so she thought. She had used hidden ships, false identities, and blocked communication signals. But the Concordat saw everything. They showed her watching human children playing in parks. They showed her listening to human musicians performing in small clubs. They showed her talking to human scientists who shared their discoveries freely, without asking for payment or status in return. Look at how you have fallen, the center arbiter said. Its voice now carried disappointment along with anger. Once you were among our finest minds. Your work on stellar formation was brilliant. Your discoveries about energy patterns helped us build better ships. But then you began to study the primitives and they changed you. Kethera's scales, which had been bright silver when she entered the chamber, now turned a dull gray. It was an automatic response, her body showing the shame that the arbiters wanted her to feel. But inside she still believed she was right. The humans were special. They had something that the great species of the Concordat had lost somewhere in their climb to power. We tried to save you, the left arbiter continued. We sent warnings. We offered you new projects, clean work studying proper civilizations. But you refused. You continued to visit the humans. You even began to argue that we should contact them openly, treat them as equals. Because they are equals, Kethera said, finding her voice at last. Intelligence comes in many forms. Just because they have not built ships like ours or learned to bend space like we do, that does not make them less than us. They have qualities we have forgotten. The 3 arbiters moved closer together, their forms becoming more solid, more threatening. And this, the right arbiter said, is exactly why you must be removed. You threaten the natural order. For 10,000 years, the Concordat has maintained peace and progress by keeping each species in its proper place. The strong guide, the weak follow, and the primitive are studied from a safe distance until they prove themselves worthy or destroy themselves trying. The humans will prove themselves worthy, Kethera said, if you give them a chance. We have made our decision, the center arbiter announced. Kethera, former scientist of the 3rd caste, you are hereby exiled to the forbidden sectors. Your research credentials are removed. Your access to Concordat space is permanently denied. Any attempt to return or to contact our worlds will result in your immediate destruction. The crystal chamber began to dim. Kethera felt the transport beam taking hold of her, preparing to move her to the small, damaged ship that would carry her into exile. As the light faded, she heard the final words of her judgment. Perhaps in the cold of empty space, you will remember what it means to be civilized. But as the beam pulled her away, Kethera thought of the humans she had met. She remembered their laughter, their tears, their impossible kindness to strangers. If this was what civilization meant, then maybe being exiled was not the worst thing that could happen to her. The transport completed, and she found herself alone in a tiny ship, drifting toward the dark spaces between the stars. Captain Kim Bo was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm bells started ringing. The sound echoed through the corridors of the research ship New Dawn, making everyone stop what they were doing. Bo put down his cup and rushed to the bridge, where his crew was already gathering around the main screen. "What do we have?" he asked. Yoon Hai, his communications officer, looked up from her controls with worry in her eyes. "Unknown ship, Captain. It is very damaged and spinning out of control. The power readings are almost zero." Bo studied the strange vessel on the screen. He had been exploring space for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The ship was smooth and curved, made of some kind of metal that seemed to change color as it moved. It was beautiful, but it was also clearly dying. "Any signals from them?" Bo asked. "Nothing on any channel we know," Hai replied. "But there is definitely someone alive in there. The life support is failing fast." Bo did not hesitate. "Lee Su, get the docking bay ready. Park Han, I need you to figure out how to connect to that ship safely. We are going to help them." His crew looked at each other with surprise. First contact with an alien species was supposed to be handled by governments and special teams, not a simple research vessel. But none of them argued. They had all served with Bo long enough to trust his judgment. Dr. Song-mi was already preparing the medical bay when they brought the alien aboard. She had studied theoretical xenobiology, but she had never expected to use it in real life. The being they carried on the stretcher was unlike anything she had imagined. The alien had 4 arms and skin that looked like living metal. It was covered in scales that shifted from silver to gray to blue as they watched. Its eyes were large and had many sides like jewels, but they were closing as if the creature was dying. "I do not know where to start," Song-mi admitted as she ran her scanners over the alien. "Its body is completely different from ours." "Then we learn as we go," Bo said firmly. "Just keep it alive." For 3 hours, Song-mi worked to understand the alien's biology. She discovered that it breathed a different mix of gases, had a heart with 6 chambers, and a nervous system that was far more complex than a human brain. Slowly, carefully, she began to provide the right kind of help. The alien's eyes opened near sunset. It looked around the medical bay with confusion and fear. When it saw the humans watching it, it tried to speak, but the words came out as strange musical sounds. Song-mi held up her hands to show she was not dangerous. "It is okay," she said softly. "You are safe here." The alien stared at her for a long moment. Then it spoke again, this time in broken standard, the common trade language used across known space. "You helped me?" "Yes," Song-mi replied simply. "But why?" The alien struggled to sit up. Its 4 hands shook with weakness. "I am exile. Forbidden. You risk danger." Captain Bo stepped forward. "What is your name?" "Kathera," the alien whispered. "Well, Kathera, I am Captain Bo and this is Dr. Song-mi. You are aboard our ship, the New Dawn. You were dying, so we brought you here to help you." Kathera's scales shifted to a bright gold color that none of them had seen before. Her large eyes filled with something that looked like tears, though they were silver instead of clear. "I do not understand," she said. "Helping exile is crime in Concordat space. You could be punished. Why do you risk this for stranger?" Bo pulled up a chair and sat down beside her bed. "Because you needed help. That is all the reason we need." The simple answer seemed to shock Kathera more than anything else. She stared at Bo as if he had said something impossible. "In my world," she said slowly, "help comes with price. Always. You want something from me, yes? Information? Technology? Service?" "No," Song-mi said, checking the monitors that showed Kathera's vital signs. "We just want you to get better." "But that makes no sense," Kathera protested. "What is benefit for you?" Bo smiled. "The benefit is that someone who was hurt is now safe. That is enough." Over the next few days, as Kathera grew stronger, she began to understand that the humans were serious. They asked her questions about where she came from and what had happened to her, but they never demanded answers. They shared their food with her, even though it was difficult to find things she could eat. They gave her a room of her own and never locked the door. Most surprising of all, they seemed genuinely interested in her as a person. They wanted to know what she liked, what made her happy, what her dreams were. No one in the Concordat had ever asked her such questions. "Your people," Kathera said to Bo one evening as they watched the stars together from the observation deck, "they are very strange." "Strange how?" Bo asked. "You are kind without reason. You help without reward. In all my years studying civilizations, I have never seen this before. Bo was quiet for a moment. Maybe, he said, that is what makes us human. Kathera spent her days learning about the humans while teaching them about the galaxy beyond their small world. She found their eagerness to learn both touching and surprising. In Concordat space, knowledge was carefully controlled, given only to those who had earned the right to receive it. But these humans shared everything they knew freely. This is amazing, Dr. Songmi said as Kathera showed her how to read star charts from other civilizations. We have been guessing about so many things and you can just tell us the answers. Your guesses were often very good, Kathera replied, her scales shifting to a warm blue color that showed she was pleased. Your scientists think in ways that surprise me. They ask questions that my people stopped asking long ago. In the ship's workshop, Park Han was fascinated by Kathera's explanations of faster-than-light travel. So you fold space itself? He asked, sketching diagrams as she spoke. Yes, but it requires perfect mathematical control. One small mistake and your ship could be destroyed or worse, lost between dimensions forever. Have you ever made a mistake? Park Han asked. Kathera paused. In Concordat society, admitting mistakes was seen as weakness. But these humans seemed to view mistakes as learning opportunities. Yes, she said finally. Many times when I was young. That is how I learned. Park Han smiled. Good. People who never make mistakes are not trying hard enough. The statement puzzled Kathera. In her world, making mistakes meant losing status, position, sometimes even freedom. But these humans seemed to celebrate the idea of learning through failure. During their evening meals together, Kathera watched the crew interact with growing amazement. They told jokes even when they were tired or worried. They helped each other with personal problems that had nothing to do with their work. Li Su spent hours teaching Yun Hai how to play a musical instrument, even though it did not help the ship function better. Why do you do this? Kathera asked one evening as she watched Captain Bo helping a junior crew member repair a broken personal device that had no importance to ship operations. Do what? Bo asked, not stopping his work. Spend time on things that do not matter. The device is not needed for ship function. Helping repair it gives you no benefit. Bo looked up at her with confusion. It matters to him. He uses it to talk to his family back on Earth. That makes it important. But you could be using this time to study my star charts or learn about energy systems or improve ship efficiency. Those things are important too, Bo agreed. But people are more important than efficiency. It was statements like this that made Kathera realize how different humans were from any species she had ever studied. They put individual happiness above group productivity. They spent resources on things that brought joy instead of advantage. They created art and music and stories that served no practical purpose except to make life more beautiful. The hardest conversation came when Kathera finally told them about the Stellar Concordat's classification system. Category 7? Yun Hai repeated, her face showing hurt. That means what, exactly? Kathera's scales turned dark gray with shame. It means, barely sentient. Like insects that happen to use tools. The Concordat believes you will either destroy yourselves within a few thousand years, or slowly develop into something worth talking to. The bridge became very quiet. Kathera prepared herself for anger, for hurt feelings, for the humans to demand that she leave their ship. Instead, Park Han started to laugh. Insects with tools, he said, shaking his head. I guess that explains why no one has contacted us yet. You are not angry? Kathera asked. Oh, I am angry, Captain Bo said firmly. But not at you. I am angry at people who judge others without knowing them. But what if they are right? Li Su asked quietly. What if we really are not ready? What if we would just cause problems? Then we will prove them wrong, Bo replied. Not by trying to be what they want us to be, but by being exactly who we are. Songmi nodded. If they think kindness is weakness and helping others is foolishness, then maybe their idea of civilization is not something we want anyway. Kathera stared at them in amazement. These humans had just learned that the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy considered them barely worth noticing, and their response was to shrug and continue being themselves. Do you understand what this means? She asked. The Concordat has weapons that could destroy your entire world in minutes. They have technology beyond your imagination. They control thousands of star systems. And yet, Yun Hai said thoughtfully, they exiled you for believing in us. Maybe their power is not as strong as they think. That night, as Kathera lay in her bed trying to sleep, she thought about the Concordat's real fear. It was not that humans were too primitive to join galactic civilization. It was that they might change it. Their strange ideas about kindness, their willingness to help strangers, their belief that every person mattered, These things could spread like wildfire through a galaxy that had forgotten what it meant to care about anything except power and order. For the first time since her exile began, Cathera smiled. The Concordat had been right to fear humans. They just did not realize that fear might not be enough to stop them. The alarm that woke everyone on the new dawn was different from their usual emergency signals. This one was sharp and urgent, the kind that meant immediate danger. Captain Bo rolled out of his bed and ran to the bridge still wearing his sleep clothes. "Report," he ordered as soon as he arrived. Yun-Hai looked pale as she stared at her screens. "3 ships just dropped out of hyperspace, Captain. Big ones. They are not responding to our hails, but they are powering up weapons." Bo felt his stomach drop. He had been expecting this day since they rescued Cathera, but he had hoped they would have more time. "Where is she?" "Here," Cathera said, entering the bridge behind him. Her scales had turned completely black, a color Bo had never seen before. "They have found me." The main screen flickered, and suddenly a new face appeared. The alien looked similar to Cathera but larger, with scales that were deep red instead of silver. When it spoke, its voice was cold and official. "Unknown human vessel, this is Commander Vexthal of the Concordat Enforcement Division. You are harboring a condemned exile. Surrender the criminal immediately, and you will be allowed to return to your primitive world unharmed." Bo stepped forward so the alien could see him clearly. "This is Captain Kim Bo of the Earth vessel New Dawn. The person you are referring to is under our protection. We will not hand anyone over to you." Vexthal's expression did not change, but his red scales seemed to glow brighter. "Captain Bo, your species is classified as Category 7. You do not understand the forces you are dealing with. Surrender the exile now, and the Concordat will forget this incident ever happened." "No," Bo said simply. For a moment, Vexthal looked genuinely surprised, as if he could not believe what he was hearing. "You would risk your ship and crew for a stranger? For someone who is not even your species?" "Yes." "Then you have chosen to share the exile's fate," Vexthal said. His image disappeared from the screen. Immediately, the new dawn shook as energy blasts passed close to their hull. Park Han was already at the helm, his hands flying over the controls. "They are not trying to destroy us yet," he reported. "Warning shots only." "That will change quickly," Cathera said. "Vexthal does not like to be refused." "Where can we go?" Bo looked at the star map. "The Kepler asteroid field is 2 hours away at full speed. If we can reach it." "We cannot outrun them," Li Su said from the engineering station. "Their ships are much faster than ours." "Then we do not run in a straight line," Bo replied. "Park Han, take us through the comet tail from System K-47. Make them work for it." What followed was a desperate chase through space. The Concordat ships were indeed faster, but the New Dawn was smaller and could change direction more quickly. Park Han flew their ship through the glowing tail of a comet, using the charged particles to confuse the enemy sensors. "They are still gaining," Yun-Hai reported. "Song-Mi, can you overload our medical scanners?" Bo asked suddenly. "Yes, but why would you want me to do that?" "Just trust me." Song-Mi worked quickly, and soon the medical bay was filled with electrical discharge. Bo had her eject the overloaded scanner into space just as the Concordat ships passed through the comet tail. "What was that supposed to do?" Park Han asked. "Buy us time," Bo replied. "They will have to stop and check if we were destroyed in an explosion." The trick worked for 20 minutes, but soon the enemy ships were chasing them again. By the time they reached the asteroid field, the Concordat vessels were close enough that Bo could see their weapon ports glowing. "Into the field," Bo ordered. "Stay close to the big rocks." "Captain," Park Han said nervously, "our ship was not built for this kind of flying." "Neither were theirs," Bo replied. The chase through the asteroids was like a deadly dance. The New Dawn twisted and turned between massive floating rocks, sometimes coming so close that pieces of stone scraped against their hull. The Concordat ships, larger and less flexible, had to be more careful. "Use the mining lasers," Bo ordered. "As weapons?" Li Su asked. "No, to cut chunks off the asteroids. Drop them behind us." It was a desperate plan, but it worked. Pieces of rock floating in their wake forced the Concordat ships to slow down and change course. When one enemy vessel came too close, Park Han flew the New Dawn through a narrow gap between 2 asteroids that was barely wide enough for their ship. "They cannot follow us through there," Park Han said with satisfaction. But they were not safe yet. The other 2 Concordat ships were moving to block their exit from the asteroid field. "Cathera," Bo said suddenly, "can you send a message on Concordat frequencies?" "Yes, but why?" Send this to every exile and outcast in the galaxy. Humanity offers sanctuary to those abandoned by the stars. Come to Earth. That will only make them angrier, Cathera warned. Good, Bo replied. Li Su, are the hyperspace engines ready? Yes, Captain. Then let's go home. The New Dawn jumped to hyperspace just as the Concordat ships moved to surround them. They had escaped, but Bo knew this was only the beginning. The message Cathera had sent would change everything. 3 years had passed since the New Dawn escaped from Commander Vexthal's ships, and Earth had become something no one expected. The blue planet now had visitors from dozens of different worlds, all coming to find the safety that humanity offered. Cathera stood on the bridge of Unity Station, the massive space platform that humans had built in Earth's orbit. Through the large windows she could see ships of every shape and size. There were the crystal vessels of the Quereth refugees, whose world had been destroyed for refusing to follow Concordat mining laws. The sleek black ships of the Nades exiles, who had been cast out for asking too many questions about their government. Even the strange living ships of the Vorth, who had been declared dangerous because they could not be controlled. They are coming, announced Park Han, who now served as the station's chief pilot. His voice was calm, but Cathera could see the worry in his eyes. On the long-range sensors, a fleet of Concordat ships was approaching Earth. There were more ships than Cathera had ever seen in one place, enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. At their head was the massive command vessel Eternal Order, a ship so large it could carry 1 million soldiers. How many? Asked Admiral Kim Bo, who now commanded the Earth Defense Fleet. 237 ships, reported Dr. Song Mi from her position at the science station. They will be here in 6 hours. Bo nodded and activated the communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Bo, prepare for defensive positions, but do not fire unless fired upon. We are not here to start a war. Cathera watched as the mixed fleet of refugee ships moved into formation around Earth. There were only 53 vessels total, and most were old transport ships that had been converted for defense. Against the Concordat fleet they looked like children's toys. Should I send the message now? Yun Hai asked from her communication post. Yes, Bo replied. Open a channel to the Concordat fleet. The main screen flickered and Commander Vexthal appeared. He looked older than he had 3 years ago, and his red scales were now marked with the golden patterns that showed high rank in the Concordat. Admiral Bo, Vexthal said, his voice carrying both surprise and respect. I see the primitive humans have learned to build space stations. We learn quickly when we have good teachers, Bo replied, glancing at Cathera. You have caused considerable trouble for the Concordat, Vexthal continued. Dozens of our exile ships have disappeared, heading for Earth. Our member worlds report that their outcasts are leaving to find you. This ends today. Commander, Cathera stepped forward so Vexthal could see her. Before you do something you cannot undo, you should know what you are really facing. Vexthal's expression darkened when he saw her. The exile speaks. You have much to answer for, Cathera. Your message 3 years ago has caused chaos across Concordat space. Good, Cathera replied simply. Commander, look around you. Really look. What do you see? For the first time Vexthal seemed to notice the mixed fleet protecting Earth. His eyes widened as he recognized ship designs from dozens of different worlds. Impossible, he whispered. These species hate each other. The Quereth and Nades have been enemies for centuries. The Vorth cannot work with anyone. They could not work together under Concordat rules, Cathera agreed. But humans do not follow Concordat rules. They believe that anyone who needs help deserves to receive it, regardless of their past. On the screen behind Vexthal, Cathera could see other Concordat officers looking worried. They had come expecting to face primitive humans and a few exile ships. Instead, they found an alliance that included species from across the galaxy. This changes nothing, Vexthal said, but his voice lacked conviction. You are still criminals and outcasts. The Concordat cannot allow this rebellion to continue. Then you will have to destroy us all, said a new voice. Captain Li Su appeared on the communication channel from her ship, the Freedom's Light. Behind her stood representatives from 12 different species, all wearing the simple blue uniforms that the Earth Alliance had adopted. We are not just exiles and criminals anymore, Li Su continued. We are citizens of a new kind of civilization, one built on the idea that everyone matters. More ships joined the communication channel. The Quereth captain spoke in his musical language, which was translated by the station's computers. We choose to stand with Earth. The Nades commander added her voice. The humans have shown us that strength comes from unity, not domination. Even the Vorth, who rarely spoke to other species, sent a simple message: "We are no longer alone." Commander Vexthal stared at the screens showing dozens of former enemies now working together. His fleet was larger and more powerful, but he was facing something the Concordat had never encountered: a coalition built on choice rather than fear. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "To be left alone," Bo replied. "We do not want to conquer the Concordat or destroy your worlds. We just want the right to exist as we choose." "And if we refuse?" Kethera smiled, her scales shifting to the bright gold color that showed confidence. "Then you will have to explain to the Concordat Council why you started a war with half the galaxy's outcasts, who no longer have anything to lose." For long minutes, Vexthal said nothing. Finally he spoke again, his voice tired. "I will need to discuss this with my superiors. Will you accept a diplomatic meeting?" "Of course," Bo replied. "We have always been willing to talk." As the communication ended, Kethera looked around Unity Station at the faces of dozens of different species, all working together to build something new. The humans had not conquered the stars. Instead, they had taught the stars a new way to shine.